I made a video recently explaining why I got sucked into this case and why I found it so interesting, and I compared my feelings to it to the way I was so invested in this movie called Rocket Science. And from the very beginning, I had an issue with the way Johnny Depp was handling things, and I didn't understand it, and that's what made me want to get to the bottom of what's going on with all this, why he decided to do these lawsuits. And someone left an interesting comment where they said, "You are literally ignoring all the actual evidence and basing your theories on ideas that pop in your head after watching movies. Thank goodness our legal system is based on evidence and not your imagination." And I thought it was a very interesting, funny comment. And I just disagree with everything this person was saying, because that movie Rocket Science, it was about debate team, and it's a very similar thing to what lawyers do. Is you make arguments, you build a case. So it wasn't that far off. Like, it's not all about evidence. It's not about the truth. At this point, it's not really about the truth, especially in this lawsuit about defamation of character. I think it is an unwinnable lawsuit if you think about it, because Johnny Depp is saying that her getting a TRO was not something that defamed him because he was still allowed to work. So he didn't lose money when she did that. But he's saying that this op-ed is the thing that kind of ruined his life, and this op-ed that she wrote didn't even use his name. And her lawyers have presented evidence of, like, that's not the reason why he lost his jobs. And they've made this whole timeline saying, like, the op-ed was not the thing that ruined his whole thing. And that's the thing that I didn't understand, like, how could this op-ed ruin his life? It didn't make any sense to me, especially after reading the op-ed. When you read the op-ed, it's just not very defamatory to him. And having to prove that she acted with malice, like, if Amber Heard believes that she's abused, even like the verbal abuse or whatever, it still counts. And that's, it wouldn't be acting with malice if she thinks that she was abused. Like, with these diagnoses of borderline, if she is someone who's just melodramatic and she takes things to heart, if she believes she's abused, then that's enough to say she's not acting with malice. You know what I mean? So it's very difficult for him to win this lawsuit, and he already lost the first time. So it just didn't make sense to me why Johnny Depp would do this himself. And when I look at the jury instructions, it just seems like an impossible task for him to be able to win this thing. And as for, like, comparing Amber to movie characters like Amy Dunn, like this elaborate hoax idea, we need to see evidence of it being an elaborate hoax, and there should be evidence. Like, sometimes people say, how can you prove something didn't happen? And it should be easy to come up with evidence that something didn't happen, especially like an elaborate hoax. There should be evidence of something like that. There should be things where she's planning with other people, and there should be more than what they've given us. His legal team had their chance, and they haven't given you enough evidence to make this jump into thinking it's an elaborate hoax. And if you think of a more recent example, like Sherry Papini, she was someone, she came up with this story that did not make sense to begin with. Like, her kidnapping thing, it just didn't make any sense. We didn't see it. Whereas Amy gave people a believable story. Like, I didn't like that Johnny Depp, like, punched her in the face, or like that he was physically violent. Like, it just, I don't know, it had like face validity. Like when I first heard that story, without even looking at the picture, I just instantly believed it. It's just like a very believable thing. So it's just, I didn't need like a picture, I didn't need a video to believe something like that happened. And then after she presented the picture in the video, that's the thing that made you think maybe it is a hoax, because it just seemed so set up. Like, especially the video makes it seem like she's just trying to, it does make it seem like it's an elaborate hoax. But other than that, there's not too much evidence of it. There should be more things. There should be more proof. Like that she, for 3 years, she had been texting her mother and like putting in all these little seeds. And then for what? Like she was never the one to file the lawsuits. It was always him to file these lawsuits and asking for this and that. So it just doesn't seem like it's an elaborate hoax on her side. I haven't gotten enough evidence of it. And then with the evidence that she's presented, it just makes it seem like maybe it was, there's some truth to it, but we can never have true proof of anything. I don't know if that's ever an option, because I mean, from the beginning, like the first video I made, which is 4 hours long, the way I did it was kind of, it wasn't based on the evidence at all. I had barely looked at the evidence from either side, but I kind of believed Johnny Depp in like that he had never been physically abusive to her, based on the idea that he wasn't physically abusive to his exes, and they came forward and said that he was never violent with them. I kind of took his side and thought maybe he was never physically abusive to Amber. He never, hit her. That's I had been operating on that belief for a long time, and it's really just only recently that I've changed my opinion, and I hope people will like hear me out on this, like fully listen to what I'm saying, because I think I've been misjudged, and people think that I'm coming at this from a sexist angle and that I have a bias and that I just believe all women, and that's simply not the truth. Like, the way I got here was just like through like deductive reasoning. I went through, I looked at this gold digger theory and tried to make that make sense, and all kinds of things, like, because I did believe that she had painted on her bruises and stuff like that. Like, I was thinking that to begin with. It's only just recently that I've changed my mind, and the thing that made me change my mind was after listening to Johnny Depp's testimony. There was something he said that really caught my attention. He gave the story where he talked about Amber berating this 18-year-old man. What had happened was she was having this conversation with someone, and then this 18-year-old came in and gave their opinion, and she had kicked them out of the conversation. She didn't want to hear what he had to say or something, and she had said something mean to him. Unfortunately, Johnny Depp didn't quote her. He wasn't specific enough, and that just, it made me kind of disbelieve the story. And he said that in that interaction, like just kicking someone out of, this is a stranger to her, she just kicked them out of the conversation, and she had said mean things with her words, and that made that 18-year-old cry. Like, it was just so unbelievable to me, and I felt like, I think Johnny Depp described this 18-year-old man as a boy, and it seemed quite manipulative, that he's describing an adult as a boy, and because it makes you think that she's being mean to an infant when we're talking about, but actually we are talking about this adult. So it's just like, how on earth could she have made an 18-year-old adult cry? What could she have said to do that? And it is possible that happened. It's just like the fact that he didn't go into the specifics it just put a question mark over him. And to me, like, maybe there's some stuff that he's not being completely honest about. And when I look at his testimony a little bit more, it just seems like there's a lot of things that just don't really make sense to me. And there is evidence that Johnny Depp has been physically abusive to Amber, things that he has said. And I'm not sure what is needed for people to believe that that it has happened. Like, does he need to be blatant and say it exactly that he has hit her in order for it to be believable to people? Because I don't know, I just think even if he were to like confess like right now and say I did these things, I think people would distrust it and say that the only reason why he's saying is because Amber has been like staring him down and like psychologically tormenting him and breaking him down and making him say things that he doesn't mean, and it's a mind game that she's been playing. And that's, like, I just don't think there's anything that he could say, any evidence where, like a confession in the same way Amber confessed to hitting him. If he were to do that right now, I still don't think that would be... I still don't think people would believe him if he were to say it. I just don't think people are truly listening to the things that he says, because if you did listen to it, I think there is a ton of evidence that he was physically abusive to her. And for a long time, I didn't believe that at all. For a good chunk of the early videos I did, I had all these wacky theories about what happened with them, and I didn't think he was ever physically violent with her. It's just recently that I changed my opinion on that. My beliefs, I just recently changed my beliefs, and it wasn't really based on the stuff that Amber said. It was based on the stuff that he said, actually, that made me change my mind. There's little gaps in what he's saying. It doesn't seem very honest on his side. It seems very manipulative, and I've explained it before. But yeah, I just hope that people will hear me out in this one, because I don't think I'm being sexist by saying that I don't believe him. I changed my beliefs on something else quite recently. I said that Camille made a very interesting point with asking Amber about the cool Carly Simon "she said it better, babe." I said that I believe that maybe Amber had done it, and I want to change my beliefs on that. So when Camille asked her that question, she said that Amber was writing these messages after Johnny Depp had severed his finger, and I don't think that makes sense when I'm looking at the picture, because the black writing, that's the stuff that definitely came out of Johnny Depp's finger. That's the stuff that he's admitted to doing. And if you look at the red, the cool Carly Simon babe, because I don't think that's written in blood. I think that's like written in lipstick or something. So that's why I thought Amber might have done it. But when I'm actually looking at it, it seems like that came first, and then the black writing came on top of it. So if anything, maybe Amber did write it down before any of this started happening, and then he responded to it with the black writing. He used his finger to write on top of it, so maybe she had started that. However, when I'm looking at the handwriting and seeing if it matches up, I think it does look like the same handwriting, like the E in loves and the E in she, like it seems like the same person. I'm not an expert in handwriting analysis, so I don't know, but it does seem like the same handwriting to me. And it is the T in better versus, and the T in hot is also the same. Like you can see the line goes at the top, like there's two lines like that, and it just seems like the same person. So I think Johnny Depp might have done all of it, and maybe he just forgot about it. So I've kind of changed my mind on that. Maybe Amber really doesn't know what that song is, and maybe because that's the only thing in her story that didn't make sense to me. Most of her story seems to make sense, and I don't believe that she lied about most of it. I mean, there's no proof. There's no definitive proof that any of it happened. However, she's telling a very consistent story. And like sometimes people say that her bruises don't match up with her description, but when I listened to her description and after seeing what her face looks like, it seems to match the description. So I don't get how it doesn't. So most things it seems to add up with me, but I thought the whole exchange with Camille, like that saying that, like, I thought she made a really good point with that. I think she was actually kind of deceptive now that I'm seeing that writing came before. Like she gave you the impression that Amber, because it's possible that Amber did write that beforehand, but she gave this impression that Amber did it after Johnny had severed his finger, and I don't believe that to be the case. I think that came way before he started writing with the blood, like based on what it looks like, because the black writing is going on top of the Carly Simon said it better babe. So it seemed like it came first instead of afterwards. Like, you see that black line that's going over the cool, like it's going over it. So she was kind of being deceptive putting it like that. So it's possible. I don't know who did it, and we'll never know. We'll never get the true answer of what happened in Australia. But I just thought it was an interesting point. And in this video, I'm going to talk about her op-ed a little bit more, because I just don't understand like why Johnny Depp is doing the lawsuit, because he didn't use his name, and the whole thing about him being so vain is just something that how else do you describe it? Because she's talking about stuff that didn't use that aren't about him. Like, she said that she was sexually assaulted before college age, before she knew Johnny Depp. And she is, factually, she was a spokesperson for domestic abuse at that time because of Johnny Depp after the TRO. Like, she was just stating a fact again, so there's nothing wrong with that. And she's also a domestic abuse survivor, like factually she is, because in her childhood, she had an abusive childhood, so there's no problem for me for Amber to be speaking about that topic in either way. I have no issue with her talking about that kind of stuff, and so I didn't see why Johnny decided to make this whole thing about him. And she was quoted saying, "It's not about Johnny. The only one who thought it was about Johnny was Johnny. It was about me and my life after Johnny." And if you read her op-ed, that's true. That is what it's about. So I don't know what his point is in doing all this. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me why she's not allowed to speak on that kind of thing. And that's my main problem, is that this has kind of become about silencing her for no good reason. Like, why is she not allowed to speak about these things? What's wrong with her being able to speak about things? There's nothing wrong with that, and that's the main issue, because this whole thing, it is about freedom of speech, and people are forgetting that that's what this whole thing is about. And she is allowed to speak about this kind of stuff. Like, you can't just ban her from speaking about domestic abuse and sexual violence ever, because it might slightly connect to Johnny Depp. Like, that's kind of wrong to say, that she's not allowed to speak about those topics ever again, based on the implied inference to Johnny Depp. It just seems so wrong to me to say something like that. It's not okay to say that she's not allowed to speak about these topics ever. It's ridiculous, actually. Ben Rottenborn did a really good job at explaining things to people, and I thought that would be enough to get people on Amber's side on this, because he laid out that it doesn't have to be physical abuse, it's psychological abuse, financial abuse, emotional abuse, like all of that counts as abuse. So you don't have to prove physical abuse. And I think after this, when Johnny Depp loses his thing, there will be people who say that Amber's lying about everything and that she did something wrong doing what she did. And I just wanted to show this piece of evidence for people who haven't seen it, because I think this is the thing that he hasn't been too blatant about when he made his points. But from the very beginning, in that 4-hour video that I made, I said that this is their smoking gun, like him doing this lawsuit, displacing the blame on Amber, saying that she's the one who's responsible for him losing jobs. And they've explained, like, that they showed the timeline that the op-ed didn't really do the damage. There are other factors as to why he lost his jobs that had nothing to do with the op-ed. But I understand, like, why there's still a case. Like, if she's lying about the other things, like, maybe he has a point to sue her. However, if you can prove that Johnny Depp was abusive one time, because there is evidence of it, and right here I have this text exchange that he did with Amber's mother. This was after the incident where he allegedly threw a phone at Amber's face, and that's how she got the bruise, allegedly. And Johnny Depp was texting her parents talking about this thing. He texted her dad saying that Amber is calling this domestic violence. She submits a picture that says, "I threw a phone at her," and then he goes, "I have never been charged nor arrested for domestic violence," and it's got that 3 exclamation points, his signature texting style. But it was interesting, like when that rumor came, when you see the picture of the bruise on Amber's face, I think people just did believe that he had maybe thrown a phone, it hit her in the face, it caused the bruise. But then you think, why is she getting a restraining order from him? It doesn't seem like domestic violence. Like, it seems like she's an opportunist gold digger. If she's going to claim that that's domestic abuse, it just doesn't seem right. And I think that's what people were thinking. And he messaged her mum saying, he said that he was there at the time and that he threw a phone and he expected Amber to catch it, but she didn't catch it, and I guess it hit her in the face. But with this hoax thing, they've been saying that Amber painted the bruise on her face and that Johnny Depp was not there at the time, and that her friends were lying. Like Rocky and Josh Drew were there. They were witnesses. They saw him there. You have Io overhearing this phone call. Io was the one who called the police, not Amber. It wasn't Amber that called the police. Io who overheard this. And there's a phone call between Johnny Depp and Amber where they talk about this whole thing where he says, "You told Io to call the cops," and she said, while it was happening, and he said, "Yeah." So we have all this evidence that Johnny Depp was there at the time, and it seems like her story adds up. And saying there's an elaborate hoax, that her friends just like spilled the wine, they roughed up the place, and it was all this schemy plan. It was just a schemy plan to get him, and that's not right. He should have said that he was. I mean, if I were him, I would have said I was there and she was just being an opportunist gold digger. But don't say that she faked her bruise. Like, say her bruise was like Botox, like that. say it's Botox, say it's self-inflicted, Gone Girl style, say something like that for me to be able to believe it. But to say that he wasn't there when there's all this evidence that makes it seem like there's truth that he did throw a phone at her and that it hit her face, it just seemed wrong to deny that. And that is, it's lending evidence like that he would lie about it. It makes it seem like there's evidence that he has caused that bruise on her face. And I don't know if it's enough to say, oh, it's domestic abuse, but the fact that he's denied it is the thing that's making me go against him and think like that he's denying causing that bruise, even accidentally. He's denying that he did that. It makes him look really sketchy to me, and I just don't know how you can side with it, because this is all, the picture was just the bruise on her face. That's all it was about. We didn't have to know all the allegations. That's all it was about. And if he had just said, yes, I did that and it was an accident, that would have been enough to clear his name, wouldn't it? And the fact that he's going over the top and doing these lawsuits, like, people would have just believed him if he had just said that out loud and explained himself. But the fact that that's not what he did makes him look very suspicious to me. It doesn't need to be rocket science. Like, people keep saying I should look at the evidence, and it doesn't need you to look at the evidence. Like, even when I thought that she was just lying and that she had faked these bruises, that she used makeup to fake her bruises and stuff, it still doesn't mean that she's done anything bad. Like, if there's abuse happening, and I think there is evidence of like verbal abuse, like that she's in a sketchy situation with this guy, just like based on what she's shown, like the psychological abuse that he does, it's enough to understand why she wants a restraining order. So if she had painted on the bruises to get it, I don't know how easy or difficult it is to get a restraining order. I think sometimes I'm not sure about how easy it is, but if she felt like she had to fake a bruise to get it, then I thought that was fine. Like, there's no problem with doing that, because that's all she got out of this. She wasn't getting money out of him. She didn't get, well, I guess the 7 million that she got in the divorce, but she would have got that amount or more if she had just divorced him in a normal way. So it just didn't seem like, the gold digger theory just doesn't pan out for me. And at the same time, it's like maybe she's doing it for attention and stuff like that, which is something that I seriously did consider. And I think that's what it's about. Like, histrionic personality is that part of it. So I think that's what you would say, is like she's just into attention, and it's not a gold digger thing. If anything, it's just like you think that she's just wanting sympathy and attention from people. And that was my strongest guess for why she did that in the earlier videos that I did, was that it's because people don't take her seriously and she wants people to be sympathetic to her. And if she's just going through psychological abuse, people aren't sympathetic enough when it comes to that. So maybe that's why she painted on the bruise. And if that's the case, then she just seems sad. Like, she just seems like a sad person. I don't want to bully someone. I don't think it's right to bully someone if that's where she's coming at this from. Like the kind of abuse that she's going through now, like the psychological abuse, like, it just seems way too much. If you're talking about someone who's mentally ill to the point that they would take pictures of bruises that aren't there and storing it like in that way, it just seems wrong to go and bully them more if that's the case. But then her testimony of what he did to her, like throwing her around and this and that, and if you listen to what she's saying, like, she said that he punched her in the back of the head, not the face. And she's saying stuff that he backhanded her with the rings on, and that's what caused like some of these marks. Like the picture of the two black eyes. I don't remember exactly, but I think that was the tiny marks that you see on her face. That's from the ring marks. Like, it's not, and we don't know the force of the hit, so it does actually fit the description. If you actually listen to what she said, her descriptions match. And if she's smart enough to come up with this elaborate hoax idea, and she's giving this very specific story, if she's smart enough to come up with a story that doesn't have holes in it, because her story doesn't have holes in it, if you actually listen to it, it doesn't. So if she's gonna do that, why would she, not paint on bruises that would fit the description more? And why would she not, like, it just, and her descriptions actually, they do match. And if you listen to Johnny Depp's description of events, it really doesn't match. Like, he said that he headbutted her in the forehead, but after that she's taken pictures where she has marks on her face, like, below the forehead. Why does she have marks on her face below the forehead if he only headbutted her in the forehead? And that's what Camille said, like, in her closing argument. She said, but is her story consistent? Does it match up? You have to believe all or nothing. And I can really, if that's the thing, I believe all. If that's what we're saying, like, I don't see the holes in her story. It does match. Like, him throwing her around and this and that. Like, it really does fit the description from things that I have witnessed. What the bruises that she's gotten from it matches the description. And now I just don't see, like, Johnny Depp's description of things, they don't match with the pictures. Like, she shouldn't, I mean, if you just clunk heads with someone, you shouldn't be getting any bruises from that. You shouldn't have anything from that. And she has like a swollen nose after it. Like, the stuff that from it, it's not just clunking heads and it's nothing. There's more to it than that for her to say anything. So it really does seem like he's downplaying the situation. And I think it's just an issue of people, like, putting words into Amber's mouth and twisting what she said so that it doesn't sound realistic, when actually, if she's smart enough to come up with this elaborate hoax, you must believe that she's smart enough to give you a story that makes more sense. And that's why would she give you a story that doesn't make sense after? Like, it's very easy to come up with abuse claims that fit the description more. Like, she's coming up with the stories are a little bit, they're just way too detailed to be all made up, don't you think? Going back to that person that commented, thank goodness our legal system is based on evidence and not your imagination. I mean, it's not going to be that, like, with these closing arguments, like what Camille is asking people to do, to make it so that Johnny Depp wins, is just like, that's not really going to be going based on the evidence, because the evidence shows that the op-ed wasn't the thing that made Johnny Depp lose his job. Elaine went through that, explaining that timeline, and saying that the op-ed didn't come, like, no one cared about that op-ed. Like, be honest, like, that wasn't something that was circling the rounds and everyone was like, oh, now he's like untouchable. That wasn't the thing. There was something else happening. And it was also like the trial before that in the UK where he lost. That was the thing that really did make him untouchable. And it's tied together with the abuse claim. So I think that's what they're talking about. So if the jury doesn't believe that the physical abuse claims happen, then that's something that would make them side with Johnny Depp, I guess. Like, I guess that's what the case is at this point. So, but it's just them. They're both explaining like what it means. Like with Johnny Depp, he's saying restore his good guy persona so that his kids can feel better, and so that he can give him his reputation back, is basically what she's saying. And it's like, that's just never gonna happen. It's just like, it's never ever gonna happen based on the stuff that's out there. Like there's so many things. It's like his reputation is ruined, and it's his fault that his reputation is ruined. It's because he does these lawsuits, and like he's revealing all these personal things about himself that is ruining his reputation. It's not the stuff that Amber did, it's him. He didn't need to come forward and give you all this information about himself. He really did not have to do that. And Johnny Depp was saying like he's obsessed with the truth and he just wants to get to the truth. And it's like, that's not, how are we gonna get to the truth? Like Amber said Amber gave you a story. We don't know if that story is true or not. Like, for example, the Australia thing. She gave her side of things, and I was listening for his side of things, but he really didn't seem to remember what happened. So it's like, how are we gonna get the truth if he's like blacked out? Like, if he's doing stuff in a blacked out state, how are we ever gonna get the truth from his side? Like, we're not gonna know. All we have is Amber's story to go off. And I guess if you don't believe it, you don't believe it. But then he's not giving you a story either. So, I mean, it's not really how, like, where are we going to get the truth from? And I think there's a possibility that Johnny Depp remembers more than he lets on. I think that's definitely a possibility. Like, maybe he doesn't black out as much as he says he does. Maybe he's saying that he doesn't remember and he does remember, but we'll never know. Like, you'll never know. But it's possible that he just really blacked out. So when you're blacked out and you don't remember, how is he expecting to get the truth? I thought there would be more evidence coming from his side, where they've like given you something that's gonna say more, but they had a lot of nothing on his side. And I think Rotten Born gave a really interesting, like, his speech at the end was like really cool. I think a lot of people liked what he said, and it made you think like, oh, it's definitely gonna go on Amber's side because he's right with this. And he said, a ruling against Amber here sends a message that no matter what you do, you always have to do more. No matter what you document, you always have to document more. No matter who you tell, you always have to tell more people. No matter how honest you are about your own imperfections and your own shortcomings in a relationship, you need to be perfect in order for people to believe you. So he's right. Like, Amber has given you enough evidence to side with her. She doesn't need to. Like, people want, well, why didn't you take a picture after this, and this? And you have to remember, like, we're not operating with the idea that Amber's a gold digger and she was out for his money. Like, take that out of the question. Like, it really doesn't make sense when you think about it. If anything, she's either doing it for attention and sympathy, or she's doing it because, like it doesn't even fit with borderline histrionic. Like, she doesn't need money. If anything, she's just an attention seeker. So if you put the money out of the way, does it make sense for it to be like this idea is? I think if anything, people think that she's stretching the truth and she's giving you a story that was kind of what happened, but she's exaggerated what it was. Like when you say that it's her stretching the truth, because like when you see the pictures of her bruises, they do look realistic. Like, I mean, it's either self-inflicted or he did it. And if you say that, like, it's just, and I'm like, there's no way it's like painted on, now that I think about it. Because if she were to paint it on, she would make it look more dramatic. If that's what she's trying to say, she would draw on more realistic looking bruises that would fit, that would make it look more dramatic. And so it just seems like they are real bruises. It's just like if it's self-inflicted or if he did it. And now we're back to square one, where I have to be the one to say that I'm really, really sorry that he or she doesn't hit herself hard enough for people to be concerned about the situation. And again, it does seem, because he texts her, he apologizes for stuff. He says that he becomes a monster, and he's apologizing for all these things. So it just makes it seem like if it is a stretching of the truth, I'm really, really sorry that he's just not hitting her hard enough for people's liking. Like, it's not enough. He's just not doing it enough for people to be concerned about it. He should have used more force, and I'm sorry that he didn't use more force when he hit her. I'm just sorry about that. So that's what we're at this point, aren't we? So now I just want to break down Amber's flawless and perfect op-ed that had a lovely, lovely message. There's nothing wrong with anything she said. She had every right to talk about what she's talking about. Like she said, it wasn't about Johnny Depp. It was about herself. It was the things that she dealt with after the fact. It wasn't the things that happened when she first accused him of this stuff. People thought that she was a gold digger. Like, her going to the police saying that he threw a phone at her and stuff like that, people thought she was being an opportunist gold digger. They didn't like what she said. There were all these theories going around where they think that she was manipulative. Everyone said that they never liked Amber Heard, that there was something wrong with her, that there's just something sketchy about her. They just didn't believe her story. And Johnny Depp is such a nice guy. It's so unbelievable that he would do something like that. All his exes came forward and stood up for him. Like, she was not an abuse victim that people believed. That was never the thing with her. And I think she did face a lot of harassment and bullying, and that's what she was talking about in the speech. And let's not forget that this whole thing is about freedom of speech, and Amber has every right to speak about these topics if she wants to speak about them. Like she says, I was exposed to abuse at a very young age. She's talking about her dad. She's allowed to be a domestic abuse advocate if that's the case, right? Like, if she's suffered abuse at an age, like, she's a survivor. Like, with or without Johnny Depp, like, you can say that that's true for her. So she's allowed to speak about this topic. She shouldn't be banned from speaking about this topic if she's being vague enough. She's not using Johnny Depp's name. Like, him trying to silence her, that level of control is just wrong. I don't know how else to explain it. Like, it's just wrong that he would say that there's something wrong with that. And his lawyer making the point of, like, that she's not allowed to speak about this stuff because she's so connected to Johnny Depp is just ridiculous. And she's saying that I just don't see anything wrong with anything she said. Like, she said, I knew that men have the power physically, socially, and financially. Like, that's true. Is that not true? Physically, do men have the power? Sure. Socially? Well, it seems like it. Like, the way that everyone has rallied around Johnny Depp, it just seems like he has more social power. Financially, again, he has way bigger net worth than she does. So, if we're talking about Johnny Depp, like, would that be wrong? But just in general, in society, like, that tends to be the case. Like, men have more money most of the time. And in her case, that was the truth. So there's nothing really wrong with what she said, is there? Like, and she's talking about how a lot of institutions support that arrangement, and she always knew that. And there's truth to it. Like, she has her perspective. Is valuable to me. I saw nothing wrong with her speech. I thought it was such a nice speech. I mean, not speech, article. But I thought it was really nice. I don't see how you could say what she said was defamatory in any way. Let's talk about the word abuse before we go any further. Like, what's happening with Amber Heard right now, it is abuse. Like, him taking it this far, doing these lawsuits, it is abuse. And I get that people are trying to figure out what happened during the marriage, and that there's this tape where she talks about hitting him, punching him, blah blah blah, and she says something like, "I've never been able to overpower you," and it makes it seem like he has overpowered her before, and physically, I mean, like, and I got into a discussion with someone about this, and is that physical abuse for him to do that? And that now that Amber's being painted as an abusive person because she chases after him, I guess, and allegedly she chases after him, which I don't think there's a lot of truth to that either. Like, if you go into it, because you know the whole thing with him locking himself into 5 bathrooms, 2 bedrooms in Australia, I swear they said that wasn't Australia in another tape. I thought they were talking about Toronto or something. I could swear it wasn't Australia when that happened. So I think they've muddled things up Camille muddled things up and is saying stuff that doesn't match up with what their story has been in the tapes, like the 5 bathrooms, 2 bedrooms. That's not what happened in Australia, I don't think. So I think that's something that people have gotten confused with. And also, there's so much evidence that she has given him space, and that they take breaks from each other, and she's not as unreasonable as she's being painted as. And this whole thing of him leaving all the time, that's one of those things that made it seem like this isn't abuse, this isn't him running away from her. It makes it seem like he's not being abused by Amber because he's leaving her. And when a man was saying, like, there's nothing wrong with, like, physically restraining someone if they hit you. And I said, yes, it is. There is something wrong if you physically restrain someone who's hitting you. And because we're at a point where its best case scenario is mutual abuse. And that's what it seems like. He does sort of fight back in a way. We don't know what he does, but he does do something physical in retaliation. And his lawyer in the UK trial says that he has had to do something to defend himself from Amber's violence. I don't know what that means, but it makes it seem like he does something physical. And my best guess to begin with was that he physically restrained her. And I said that would count as physical abuse if you do that, because there's never a need to do that to someone, and that it is, even if you don't think it's violent, it's the most psychologically harmful thing that you could do to someone. And she has spoken about, like, her PTSD, like, alleged, like, one of the things she talks about is, like, having nightmares about someone holding her down and stuff like that. So it seems like that's maybe something he has done, and if he has done that, that would count as physical abuse, restraining her against her will. And there's all this stuff about him running away, leaving her, and she's being sarcastic with him, and I think that's why she's being sarcastic with him, because if he were to physically restrain her, she doesn't have the luxury to get up and leave anytime she wants, does she? Because he's restraining her, and that is the most psychologically damaging thing, because you connect it to someone stripping you of your human rights, they're taking away your autonomy. Like, you're not allowed to. She just doesn't have the luxury of leaving like he does. So I think that's why if I had to guess why she's being sarcastic with him when she's saying that, that's what I thought initially. And she keeps talking about him overpowering her physically, so that would count as physical abuse, by the way, like, if that's what he did. and he hasn't given you a story where he said he did that. And if only he had said that in his testimony, I think people would have believed him. They would have sided with him. But the fact that he didn't say that, it makes you think maybe the stuff that Amber's saying is more likely the truth. So that's my first position, was that he physically overpowered her, and it was very traumatic for her. It was very stressful for her. She talks about him, taking the trust away. And I think when we talk about abuse, it is about the power imbalance. And if you're a stronger person and you use your strength against someone, I think it's wrong to do that. It's just not okay to do that, and I think it's a very aggressive. That would be the worst thing you could do, and it would prove to her that he's not her equal. Because I think in a lot of ways she felt like he was her equal, and then this was the thing that made her feel like he's not her equal. And there is enough talk where it makes it seem like, if anything, he's doing that. And because he didn't describe doing that, it makes me think that Amber's telling the truth more. But that's because he could have easily said something like, I just restrain her, I just completely hold her down, and there would be people to side with him and say he didn't do anything wrong. But there are other ways to handle it. Obviously, he can always run away whenever he wants to and hide from her whenever he wants to. He has that ability. So it's wrong to say that it makes sense to physically restrain someone, to strip them of the choice, the ability to do what they want to do. That seems abusive to me. You shouldn't. It's not up to you to control how someone else behaves. It's just because she's hitting him or she's acting in a way that he doesn't feel is right. It's up to him to make the decision to leave. And fair enough, like in the future, that's what he ended up doing. But to decide that you're going to be someone who holds them down and restricts what they do, it does seem abusive to me, that you're only in control of yourself. Why get involved with what someone else is doing? And again, with that, the thing that made me kind of go against Johnny Depp was that thing about her making the 18-year-old cry. I mean, if you think about it, like, I don't think you should say that Ahmed said anything wrong to that 18-year-old to make him cry. Like, it seems more like a him problem, because you would never think that anything you say to someone of that age would make them cry in a small interaction like that. It seems like maybe he was emotional already based on something else. So to make it seem like she should hold the blame and it's all her fault that he cried, it's probably very unlikely that she was the one that made him cry. I think maybe it was a build-up of a bunch of things that caused that 18-year-old to cry, if that story is true. So saying that she should be to blame, it doesn't make sense to me. And afterwards, Johnny Depp said he took Amber aside and said, you shouldn't speak to people like that, you shouldn't do. And that's the thing that really bugged me. No one likes being told what to do. No one. He said it himself, like, you shouldn't be, you don't have a right to be authoritative over me. And I agree with Johnny Depp. Like, you don't want that in your partner. You don't want someone telling you what to do, ever. I don't like that. I don't think anyone likes that. So why is he doing it to her? Why is he trying to control the way she speaks to people, the way she behaves? I have a big problem with people saying that there's something wrong with the way Amber speaks to people and the way she behaves, because I don't see any problem with the way she speaks to people. I think it's completely fine. I don't see anything at fault with it. Just because he doesn't like it, that's fair enough. Like, there's a lot of things that, I'm sure Amber doesn't like it when he slams the cabinets and throws stuff around. And she texted her mother saying that she doesn't like that. But, I mean, she's not going to control what he does. Like, he's going to do what he needs to do to get his feelings out of his system, and it's not up to her to tell him, hey, don't do that, it makes me uncomfortable. Like, if she wants to leave, she can leave, right? If that's what you think. Like, if that's what you think, you can leave. It's not up to her to control what he does. It's not up to him to control what she does. Everyone's responsible for themselves, is my opinion. And that's the thing. Like, when I heard that he took her aside and said, hey, don't speak to people this way, that's the thing that made me kind of go off of him. He should not be telling her what to do. No one likes being told what to do. So with the headline, her saying that she spoke up about sexual violence, whether it was intended or not, she has this quote where she says, like many women, I had been harassed and sexually assaulted by the time I was of college age. Okay, so that was before Johnny Depp. And it just makes it seem like, why is he involving himself into this? Like, she gave him out. If you read what she said, the stuff where she's talking about things that definitely are clearly not involving Johnny Depp. So why is he going out of his way to connect it to himself? And just on top of that, like, the fact that Amber Heard, like, works in Hollywood, and like his lawyer saying, like, Johnny Depp, everything she does is connected to Johnny Depp, and it's like, no, like, there's other guys that she's connected to, like Elon Musk or James Franco. James Franco has, like, some sexual assault claims against him, so he could have easily pinned it on one of those guys, like Men in Power. I mean, like, it could have easily been connected to one of those guys. He could have pinned it on them. And for him, like, she actually, honestly, she could have been talking about anyone, like other people in the industry. She could have been talking about anyone, like a pretty girl like her working in showbiz. She could have been talking about anyone. It didn't have to be about Johnny Depp. And maybe there are other guys in the industry that she had on her mind, that she was directing some of this stuff to. We don't know. But I don't think it's necessarily all about him. I think there's other people, like Harvey Weinstein and stuff. Like, I don't know what movie she's been in, or if there's been other guys like that. But she could have been talking about any of them. They could have done something. There's stories where she said that she's been to parties wearing, like, something, and he was like, she said that Johnny Depp was, like, getting really jealous and saying, oh, they don't they don't meet with them, don't meet with so and so, and he's accusing her of sleeping with these guys that to get a job and stuff like that. So if that's the case, that's also sexual harassment. Even the stuff that she's alleging that Johnny Depp did when he was her boss in the Rum Diary, like, that stuff is sexual harassment. Like, before they were dating, if that stuff is true, they didn't ask him about it, but if that stuff was true, then that's sexual harassment, and she's allowed to speak about it. So there's nothing wrong with anything she said. And she said that I did not expect filing complaints to bring justice. I don't see myself as a victim. She said that she didn't see herself as a victim. Like, people are saying she's not a perfect victim. Well, she said that she doesn't see herself as a victim. Like, if it's gonna come down to mutual abuse, like, she again cleared her name of that. Like, she said, I don't see myself as a victim. I didn't. Fair enough. Like, there's nothing wrong with her saying anything she said. And then she said, then 2 years ago, I became a public figure representing domestic abuse. I felt the full force of our culture's wrath for women who speak out. So, again, with that, like, becoming a public figure for domestic abuse, there's nothing wrong with her saying that. That's just a factual statement. Like, she did become a figure representing domestic abuse. Like, even if it's a lie, she still became she was a public figure of it, was she not? Like, she's making factual statements. There's nothing wrong with any of it. I'm gonna keep saying that there's nothing wrong with any of it because it's the truth. Like it's flawless. Like she consulted with a lawyer before she said anything, so that's why it's so flawless. There's nothing defamatory in it. She followed all the instructions that they said, and you can see that she has because she completely cleared herself of anything. And you know, with the whole thing about filing complaints doesn't bring justice. Like when Johnny Depp loses, people are gonna be like, "This is an injustice," blah 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 blah. And that's the thing. That's what I've been saying. Like filing a complaint, doing lawsuits, it's not gonna get you what you want. He's not clearing his reputation by doing this stuff. So it doesn't help you. It really doesn't help people to do these lawsuits. And you know, if people are like defending him after the stuff that came out about him, it's not. I mean, he's not an innocent person. He's done stuff. He's done stuff against Amber Heard. He's been mean to her verbally, and she showed signs of abuse. Like her acting coach gave that testimony where she said that Amber's not good at fake crying, but Amber would burst into tears, and her routine was disrupted, and that she lost a ton of weight. Like she's showing all these signs of abuse. Maybe it's just a psychological abuse thing, but there's so many ways where there's signs of it on her that people, casual observers, could see it. So I don't think you can really argue against it. You can argue against the physical abuse. Like, we don't have definitive proof that he has struck a woman, fine. But it doesn't mean that she wasn't abused by him. And it doesn't mean that he doesn't know that he abused her. I think he's aware that he's done something wrong in this relationship. The next part of her op-ed is her talking about how when she made the accusations against him, it kind of backfired on her. Like, she lost job opportunities, and there was a worry that she would be blacklisted. I think there's some truth to what she's saying. I think because people had a bad taste in their mouth when it came to Amber Heard, they said because she had accused a beloved figure like Johnny Depp, he's such a nice guy in Hollywood, people had a problem with her saying anything about him. She was seen as a manipulative, bad person. So it kind of did ruin a lot of things for her. She talks about being... she lost this thing, a global fashion brand that dropped her because she came forward as a victim. So, and then they talked about if she could keep her role in Mira in the Justice League and Aquaman films, because people are doing these petitions to get her off of it just because she's making these allegations, and nothing she's accused him of can be disproved, by the way, and she's being treated as a liar, and there's no evidence that she lied about anything. The only thing was the donation pledge thing, but if we're talking about the abuse allegations, there's no evidence that she lied about any of it, and yet she's being treated as a liar. People don't want to see her as an actress anymore because she came forward as a victim of abuse, and because they've seen her, you know, that she's mocked Johnny Depp, and that she admits to hitting him a few times, and that's enough for people to think that she should be fired from movies and stuff like that. So that's what she's talking about, and she talks about how people were defending Johnny Depp and why are they doing it, and I'm getting the same sense that she's getting. Like, it's not because they believe in or even care about the ship, but because their own fates depend on the Enterprise, and that's what's happening. It's like she compared him to the Titanic, and she had this whole kind of thing in it. So she's saying that people don't care. I don't think people believe that her hitting him is necessarily abuse. I don't believe that people believe in that definition. And Johnny Depp, if you listen to what Johnny Depp says about it, he's saying that the worst thing, he never said that her hitting him hurt him. He never said that. But he did say that the verbal insults, her coming after him when he tries to run away, her coming after him, that she apparently wouldn't let him leave. That's the stuff that was abusive, right? Like emotional abuse. He's made some claims about stuff like that. So all those things would count as abusive. It's not her hitting him. That's not what abuse means. And the tape that keeps circling around about her hitting him, it's dishonest to say that is what abuse means. It's not right to describe it as just that. And that's not what he said was the worst thing. He gave his definition of what was the most hurtful, was the most abusive, and it wasn't. He said the physical abuse wasn't the worst thing. He said it was psychological abuse, verbal abuse. That's the worst, and that's what he accuses Amber of doing. And I think again, like, there's that mutual abuse thing happening. Like, I do believe that she has been abusive to him psychologically and verbally. Like, I do believe it. But that doesn't mean that, that, but the thing that people keep talking about, the thing that people want to prove is the physical abuse. And I listened to, some male YouTubers talk about this type of thing. And someone who said that they were a victim of domestic abuse, and they explained their story. And it was just interesting to me, the way that his story compared to Amber's story, the proven things in Amber's story. Because he had video evidence of his girlfriend at the time hitting him, low-level violence, not hitting him so that it would hurt him exactly, but kind of doing these light punch type stuff, with a closed fist. It wasn't enough to leave a bruise, if you know what I mean. So it wasn't enough. If he hadn't filmed it, there would be no evidence that she did that. So that's something that she had done. But the thing that made him call the police was that his girlfriend was breaking his stuff. He had expensive technical equipment, and she smashes things, she breaks stuff, kind of in the same way Johnny Depp does. And Johnny Depp, the things that he has been proven to do is ruin Amber Heard's clothes. Clothes are very expensive. I'm sure the clothes that she has are very expensive, and he would throw paint on them, he would ruin them. She talks about it. She talks about how sad she was when he ripped her dress and things like that. And people brush it off like it's nothing. And that's the double standard that I don't care for. When this guy called the police when she was breaking his stuff, the police came by. That was also filmed for people to see, and the police told him, you have to leave. If you're a victim of domestic abuse, you have to leave your home and go. You leave all your stuff and you leave. And he said he basically wanted the police to take his girlfriend and move her away from him. And that, I just don't believe. This is the thing that makes it seem like it's not taken seriously. Because you think that women are different. If a woman calls the police, that's what they say to them as well. They don't say you get to stay at home and we'll take this person away. Not necessarily, unless they see it happen. That's not what happens. Most of the time, women just leave their homes and they run away. They leave everything behind. Even if they have valuable things, they have to leave. And that's how it works. And it just seems like he wanted more protection, he was kind of treating the police that they would be animal control kind of thing. Why couldn't he just tell his girlfriend to leave? Why couldn't he do something like that? Because it was his home. So why is he not allowed to tell his girlfriend to? Why is he not allowed to kick her out or something like that? Why isn't he able to do stuff like that? and now his it just doesn't seem right to me. It seems like the way he describes things, it just makes it seem like he feels oppressed because he doesn't treat his girlfriend like she's his equal. Do you know what I mean? Like he's not willing to he's getting someone else in to say stuff that he's not willing to say himself, if that makes sense. Like, this is something that you need to be able to handle by yourself. You don't need to use your physical strength against someone. There should be a way to handle these things by yourself. I don't think that, I mean, the police isn't going to do anything to help you if all she's doing is break his stuff. The police isn't really going to do anything to help him if that's the case. So it just seems like I just don't like the way this conversation is like they want to give men all this extra protection when they get abused, and it's just not realistic. It's never gonna happen. It's just, we need to be more realistic about what's gonna happen. And all these extra protections that men want, like that I'm hearing that men want, it's just not gonna pan out. It's just never gonna be the thing. The police are useless. They are useless when it comes to this stuff. And saying that you need this and that, and it's just, it won't ever happen. What you need to be able to do is treat women as equals, be able to speak freely, to communicate what you want from them. And if it doesn't work, then get out of the situation. Like it's the domestic abuse thing. You don't need. I didn't have respect for the way Johnny Depp was handling things, like getting millions of people to do his dirty work and get back at this woman. Even though I understand that it was like a mutual abuse thing when they were together, kind of, possibly. If that was the case, it's not up to other people to handle this thing for him, to bully Amber Heard, to bring her down. They shouldn't be doing that on his behalf. It's up to him. If he wants to do that, fine. If he wants to get her back, fine. But why is he using all these people to do it? It just seems wrong. It seems incredibly wrong to get other people to do this on his behalf. And that's the main problem I have with him doing this. And I didn't appreciate the people telling me that I'm being sexist because of the way I speak about Johnny Depp, because I was under the impression that it was like rude, like to think that he couldn't handle something like this by himself. Like, if you really think about it, if all this is her insulting him, and stuff like that, it just seems rude to think that he would not be able to handle that by himself. He doesn't need like all these people holding his hand and helping him out. Like, we've never seen a victim of domestic abuse have this much support and hand holding. It's unbelievable to me that there's a victim that had this much support, and it's not something that will ever happen again in real life, I don't think. So I don't think like, why am I sexist just because I treat men like my equals? Why is Amber doing something wrong because of the way she speaks to him? I think even though she calls him a baby, like, that's the thing. That's what I feel like. I feel like, is that not true? Is that really not the truth? Like, her... Because it just feels like we're infantilizing men if you think that they need this much support every time. The kind of abuse that she did to him, like, do men really need this excessive amount of support? Like, this is just going to weaken everyone if that's the case, won't it? Because I've never seen anything like this before. So it seems like Amber did say something wrong. Factually, it was wrong. She talks about the Me Too movement and how now there's a change, and how women are confronting these men who are buoyed by social, economic, and cultural power, and these institutions are beginning to change. That's incorrect. we're learning that the hard way. But yeah, you live and you learn. She was wrong about this. She thought, but at the time she thought, things were changing, but I guess they're not. I mean, it's like the donation pledge thing. She thought something was one way, and then I guess she misspoke. Fine. It's got nothing to do with Johnny Depp, though. And no, it just seems like the stuff that Amber says is just nice. Like, whether or not, like, if you believe she's suffered abuse or if she hasn't, like, the stuff that she's saying is nice. She talks about the Violence Against Women Act and like strengthening that, and that's been nice. Like she said last month, more women were elected to Congress than ever in our history, with a mandate to take women's issues seriously. Again, I think this is wrong now, like based on the stuff that's been going down. I think she misspoke. Like, I think having more women, I don't know too much about politics, I'm not interested in politics, and I don't know if that's true, but having more women in Congress doesn't necessarily mean things are gonna go good for you. Like, some women are just idiots, and like, again, you learn that the hard way. We're learning that the hard way, that some women are just idiots. And yeah, that's what's going down. But the stuff that she's saying is completely fine. She talks about how that now that they're trying to bring more protection for people who report abuse, and like provide funding for rape crisis centers and stuff like that, and prohibits discrimination against LGBTQ survivors. Like, there's some nice things happening that she's talking about. There's nothing wrong with her writing an article about this kind of stuff, bringing people's attention to this kind of stuff. It seems like she's using her platform to say something nice and good for people. Whether or not if she's a real survivor, it really doesn't matter. I mean, if people believe that she was, then fair enough. Like, there's nothing wrong with what she said. And it's all kind of like nice political messages from here on. Like, I don't want to get too detailed in it, but it's just it all seems kind of nice and okay to me. But I don't know. She really isn't getting too personal about like the stuff that happened to her. She's not going into details about her allegations against Johnny Depp. She's just talking about like political change. She's talking about stuff that's happening in universities, and she's saying that the new rules that they had aren't very good. They're only investigating the most extreme complaints, and that's something that she has something to say. Like, because she presented those pictures of her light bruises, and I do remember people saying like that they didn't believe her, they didn't think that I think that people have always compared pictures of Amber's bruises to Rihanna's bruises, and said, oh, Amber's one is nothing, why are we concerned about that? So I think she has something to say when she's saying like people only care about the most extreme complaints. They don't care about like some of the lower degrees of abuse, and those lower degrees of abuse are important. And the stuff that Johnny Depp is accusing Amber of, they are the lower spectrum of abuse. Like, they are. Even the thing with his finger, assuming that she did that, if anything, it's an accident. She's not intending to hurt him. If that's the case, and he is someone who has thrown bottles at people. His ex testified to that he had thrown bottles near her, and it's something that he's been known to do. So it would be a double standard to judge Amber for accidentally severing his finger in that way. So it seems like a lower level of violence, and it doesn't mean, why should you take that like less seriously? Because if it hurts him, why should you take it less seriously? I don't see. So she has a good point. She has something to say about this type of thing, and she's saying that women on campuses already have trouble coming forward about sexual violence. Why would we allow institutions to scale back supports? And that's what's happening. Like, she has such a thorough case documenting the abuse that she's gone through. Like, it just, I don't see any holes in it. It all seems believable to me, and I guess it's just my opinion. And you're saying people want an actual video of Johnny Depp beating her up, or Johnny Depp, if he were the abuser, a confession from him in order to believe it. It just seems wrong. I think this whole thing of just believing someone at their word, that should be the default position. Johnny Depp accuses Amber of things, and he doesn't have evidence of her doing the things he's accused her of. He doesn't have a video of Amber hitting him. We've never seen it. We've not really seen that before. If she has this, she's admitting to hitting him and punching him, you could just say that she's just placating him and that she doesn't mean what she's saying. That's also something that she said that he has done. Like, she talks about how he can throw a punch and headbutt her, and he admits to headbutting her. Like, he admits to certain things, and it's like, I'm just placating her. And it's the same thing. It's the exact same thing. So, like, why do you need that? Why not just believe someone at their word? What is the harm at just believing someone at their word? There doesn't need to be any harm for the abuser. You don't need to treat the abuser as an evil person. No one ever treated Johnny Depp this way if people believe that he was a domestic abuser. They never treated him in the same way that they're treating Amber right now. So, yeah, it just seems like there's this unfair thing happening with her, and it doesn't make any sense to me. And then there's this part where she's talking about the effects of accusing Johnny Depp of domestic abuse and the effects that it had on her. Like, she says she was someone who had to change her phone number every week, and that she was getting death threats. Do we believe that that's the case? Because now I've definitely seen people say that they are giving Amber death threats, like giving her baby death threats as well. So that's definitely something that's going down, because she accused someone of domestic abuse. And she says that it's not safe for her to leave her apartment, and that the paparazzi follows her more because of this. It's like she's in an unsafe, this is bad for her. Like, coming forward as a victim turned out bad for her. And I think that's why she wrote this op-ed. Like, this is her way of handling things. She didn't sue Johnny Depp. She didn't want to do that, like, because she knows that that's not going to give her justice. If she were to sue him, she wouldn't get justice. And this is her way of trying to handle the situation, perhaps, like, writing this thing, sharing her perspective. And there's nothing, we know that these things happen to her. We know it, we've seen it. And it's more so right now because of what Johnny Depp has done. And he said he had malicious intent in doing what he did. I don't think he expected to get anything out of it. I don't think he expected to win. And he said that he wanted, like, global humiliation for Amber Heard. And she has this quote where she says, "I felt as though I was on trial in the court of public opinion, and my life and livelihood depended on myriad judgments far beyond my control." Yeah, that's what's going on right now. So this is why I said, like, if he wasn't abused, if he was completely perfect in the marriage, which he wasn't, if he were, like, if what's happening now, him doing these lawsuits against her, is gonna be, this is the proof, this is the smoking gun, this is evidence that he is abusing her. And he's doing it right now. He's been doing it in front of everyone, and a lot of people have not noticed that he has been abusing her for the last 6 weeks because he didn't directly do it. But yeah, he has been doing it this entire time, and I'm glad that her lawyer emphasized that point. to the jury, because it's an important point, and that's something that I said from the very beginning, that even if he were perfect the whole time, him handling things this way was not the right thing to do. He could have easily given his side of the story in a way that was not through the legal system, and that would have cleared his name. If that was the case, if he really had not done anything, he could have written a statement saying something to that effect. But you know what he did? He and Amber got together. They wrote a mutual statement saying that neither party made false accusations for financial gain, and Amber said that she wished the best for his future and all this stuff. So they already did their part. Like, they already settled things in a nice way. So for him to come back and get her after all these years, it seemed fishy to me from the very beginning. It always seemed like a fishy thing for him to try to do something like that. And what Camille came to Amber saying, like, when Amber was like, I just want Johnny to leave me alone. I want to move on with my life. I'm not choosing to go to the courtroom. I'm not choosing to do any of this. He's forcing me to do this against my will. She didn't want to give all these allegations against him. She didn't want to report him for this stuff, but he forced her to explain everything that happened. She didn't need to say all the things that she said, but she did it anyway. And is she doing that to get him? Maybe she is. Maybe she's like getting revenge on him because he's forcing her to do something against her will, and she just thought, okay, well, if we're gonna do this, then let me say this, and you can never refute what I'm saying unless he gives his side. And if his side is a lesser version, but it's still a version of real abuse that he knows happened, it's not gonna be good for him. So I think it's very possible that Amber could be making this stuff up to get him back, because she knows, because there's nothing he can do about it. There's no way, if he can't disprove what he's saying, if his only defense is that he doesn't remember because he was blackout drunk, that's not really a defense. So yeah, I don't know what he's gonna do at this point. I don't care if Amber's faking everything. I really don't care. I don't sympathize with Johnny Depp, because it's his fault. He's in this position. And what did he expect us to do? Did he really expect us to laugh at her and call her a liar when she's making these serious allegations? What does he think, that we're all monsters, that we're just gonna laugh at this woman and make fun of her when she's telling these very detailed, specific stories that we can't poke holes into, and she has witnesses to some of this? And like, does he really think that we're gonna think that she made all of this up? Like, what is he? I mean, this is madness, that he would think that people wouldn't believe this stuff. So yeah, I have no sympathy for this man, and I think if it is false accusations, then he deserves this. He brought this onto himself. So yeah. It ended in such a funny way, this op-ed. She said, I want to ensure that women who come forward to talk about violence receive more support. We are electing representatives who know how deeply we care about these issues. We can work together to demand changes to laws and rules and social norms, and to right the imbalances that have shaped our lives. See, like, it's a nice message, isn't it? Isn't that a nice message? Even if she is a real survivor or she isn't, it seems like a nice message. And like with Camille, like, her whole thing is like, it's all victim blaming. So many people hate the stuff that Camille said at the end about, why didn't you go to the hospital? Why don't you have medical reports? Why don't you have more pictures? Like, so many victims disliked the stuff that Camille said at the end. And we know, like, Amber's going through some really bad online harassment and real life harassment. Like, this is dangerous for her. Like, the Johnny Depp fans, some of them, they can really do some damage. She's not safe in this world, like, based on the stuff that they've done. Like, he crossed the line by doing all this. I tried to defend this Camille, and I believe, like, yeah, she's just doing her job when she's saying this stuff, but then it's not a good argument to make, and it's one of those things that's making me think that she's trying to signal to people that she's on the wrong side. Like, she can't honestly believe the things that she's saying. And, like, there's this one, like, when Amber said, I just want Johnny to leave me alone, and she's all like, over Healy. What do you mean, over Healy? Of course it's true. Of course she just wants him to leave her alone at this time. Like, it just makes me think, like, there's no way she can mean what she's saying. Like, yes, yeah, of course she wants Johnny Depp to leave her alone, but he refuses to leave her alone. So, yeah, I don't know what's going on with her, but she's getting a bit weird, this Camille character. She's getting weird with some of these arguments. Like, I tried to give her a chance, but towards the end there, like, there's just some stuff that she was saying that I just didn't care for. No one liked it. I mean, of the abused people side, like, they don't care for the stuff that she was saying about the medical documents and stuff like that. Like, that was not a nice point to make. And like Ron Bourne was saying, like, if he can't win, he can't win, but for them to put out this message that with the amount that Amber has shown that it's not enough, that would be a really bad message to send. So I think it has to go more on her side. And it's just like, now what does that mean for Johnny Depp? Like, I don't think it's really going to affect him. And I don't think anyone's going to treat him badly. No one's being mean to him. Even me. Like, I'm not being that mean to him. This whole time, I'm just being like, is he doing okay? Is he having a mental breakdown right now? What is this? Like, and I don't mean it in a mean way. I'm just, like, I'm slightly concerned. I don't know. It's just, like, it's just unusual. I've never seen, well, no one has ever seen anything like this before, have they? So, yes, it's a weird thing that's going down, but to wrap this whole thing up, I think Amber's op-ed was beautiful. It was a nice message. It was a lovely message. What's the problem? What was so defamatory? Like, this was the whole thing. Does this whole thing seem defamatory to Johnny Depp? And if so, how? Because I really don't see it.